A disaster can have a devastating impact on any organisation, and while fire, floods and earthquakes remain a risk, a new wave of modern threat, such as pandemics, acts of terrorism and cyber attack, also have the potential to debilitate a business. Today on Insurance Business TV, we're talking about disaster management and how brokers can help their clients get adequate coverage. Disaster management should be a top priority for a company of any size, and comprehensive insurance policies play an integral role in any effective disaster plan. But disaster management isn't an everyday product. I spoke to VP of Claims at RSA, Yvonne Ladouceur, about how brokers can help clients in this segment of the market.
Brokers should have a clear understanding of the risks that their clients would face during a disaster, and it's a good idea to use examples to bring that to life for the customer. Insurance is one tool that they can use, but it's important that they also have a business continuity plan, and brokers should look for opportunities to raise awareness with their customers, in particular small and medium-sized portfolios. We've seen natural disasters increase across the globe in the last 3 decades, and Canada is no exception to that. So it's very important that clients can no longer take the attitude that it's not going to happen to them. The risks are there, they're real. There's the threat still of fire, of flooding, and also earthquake. But there's also threats they may not be thinking about, such as cyber threats, pandemics, and also terrorism. We've seen that how quickly a company responds and can get back up in business during a catastrophe is a reflection of how well they do in the future.
For a company without a disaster management plan, the consequences can be catastrophic. And yet some clients remain unaware that their regular policies often don't provide disaster management coverage. There's a knowledge gap, and brokers have to step up. But what are the first steps for a broker who wants to safeguard their clients from the impacts of a disaster?
It starts with raising awareness with your customer and speaking to them. Have they thought about what they would do in the event of a catastrophe? What kind of steps have they taken? It's critical to understand what is most important for them to stay in business during a catastrophe. It helps if they think about if they came into the office and everything was gone, what would they do? What's the first thing that they would do? And if they can think about the different categories such as people, processes, data, and communication, that's very helpful. A proper insurance portfolio should be reviewed at least annually with your client to ensure that there's no gaps in coverage, that they have the right limits in place, and that the risk hasn't changed. A business continuity plan should not only be agile, but it should be tested. Customer needs to think about how they're going to budget the resources for this. They should be thinking about training their staff and as well as assigning responsibilities so that everyone knows what role they play. Data backup is also very important. During a catastrophe, cash flow becomes critical, and therefore the client needs to ensure that they have their important financial information backed up and available so that they can readily hand it over to their insurer should disaster strike. Businesses should look to any associations or groups that they belong to look into the opportunities of sharing resources and costs.
In response to the increased risk, the insurance industry has changed its approach to disaster management.
Really focusing on the customer needs with respect to gaps in insurance, major insurers have now developed flood insurance for personal lines and also cyber risk insurance. Even though our customers live in a digital world today, they still really relish that face-to-face contact during a catastrophe. And most insurers recognize this by putting staff at catastrophe centers so that we can meet with the customers face-to-face to explain their policy coverage, as well as just provide them with that reassurance that they really need. We as an industry are far more proactive now at analyzing our lessons learned so that we can provide a more consistent and unified approach to handling our catastrophes.